All right, so we are at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll make the introduction here, and then I'm going to turn off my camera and all of that and turn it over to Mark. But I will be here checking the chat. So any questions, comments, please put them in. So there's a reason that your content isn't getting attention. It's the reason you spend hours toiling with little return to show for your efforts. It's the reason you feel overworked, frustrated, underpaid, and enslaved, never feeling you've got that elusive momentum that you long for. The same reason you're struggling to attract clients and achieve the revenue goal you only dream about. So let's discover the myth about content marketing and how it's killing your energy and your business. So just a quick intro. I'm Jamie Scoltetti. My company is Upscale Your Business, and I'm a social media marketing strategist specializing in helping professional coaches and consultants to systematize their business, maximize visibility, and attract ideal clients. And my partner and guest presenter today, or our presenter, I don't want to say guest, but presenter is Mark Canty, and his company is releasedynamics.com. And Mark is a coach for coaches. His company, Release Dynamics, is dedicated to helping coaches and consultants release their full potential by applying practical business and marketing strategies. And just a little note, stay with us till the end. We do have special bonuses for you, so make sure you hang in with us. And, we'll try to be as prompt as we can to end at the top of the hour. I will go ahead and stop my share, let Mark take over the sharing. I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone. Since I do have a cold, I don't want to be, having you hear me sniffling and coughing.
Thank you, Jamie, and it's a pleasure to be here with everyone. Jamie and I work together really well as a team with this particular platform. Jamie acts kind of as moderator, so please feel free to throw in questions into the chat. I won't necessarily see that once I screen share with you, but Jamie will, and she'll be feeding me any questions. So we'll take natural breaks and do that. So without further ado, I want to dive right in here, and let me just get my screen share going. And let me see if this is going to work the way I want it to. It will. Hold on just a second. I'm going to need. There we go.
There you go. Okay, great. We see it. I see it. Everybody
that looks good, Jamie. We're all set. Yep. Okay,
all set.
Thank you. I just got a weird little alert there, but it looks like it went away. And here we go. So welcome to our creating content on purpose webinar. Appreciate all of you being here, and I'm just still getting a couple things set up, but bear with me a second. There we go. So let me ask you a question, and it's kind of a leading question. Are you a spectator or are you a participant? With the internet these days and computers and screens, and also when you think about big screen TVs and such, we've become such a society of spectators. In fact, we're willing to pay professional people millions and millions and millions of dollars, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, so that we can sit back on our couches and be spectators. When you're in business, like I'm hoping everyone on this webinar is, hopefully you're a participant, and I really want to encourage you today to be a participant, to give us comments, give us questions, to participate in the chat. Also, be sure to get ready to do some work. Don't just sit back and be a spectator and let me do all the work. I am going to actually have you do some exercises at times. So in a sense, this is a webinar, and it's also kind of a workshop at the same time. We're going to cram as much valuable content and exercises into this so that you come away actually doing things differently with some practical strategies that you're taking action on. So get that notepad ready, get a pen and paper ready, get your journal ready, get the notepad ready on your screen. However you take notes, do it and stick around, because you just don't know when that last point is going to be the one that impacts you. And as we say in all of our introductions and our marketing too, this is not intended to be a sales pitch. This is intended to be valuable content. At the end of this, we are going to make you an offer. I'll be totally upfront with that. It's not going to be a financial offer. So surprisingly enough, we're not going to try and pitch you and sell you something. But we are going to make an offer to give you something very special to help you out and help you on this progress that you're making towards building a coaching consulting practice, building your business by incorporating and utilizing the online space. So let me ask you another question here when it comes to content marketing is when you think about this, there's a theory. Provide free content. Of course, it's implied that there's some value there that will benefit your market. They'll come to you looking for more, and you'll automatically draw more qualified leads and hotter prospects who will be motivated to reach out and buy from you. Now, if you play with me here and participate, give me a 1 in the chat box if you think that that's a myth, or give me a 2 if you think that that's true, if that's reality. Jamie, we got any numbers coming in?
We've got a 2. I'm going to put in a 2. And come on, let's participate. We've got more 2s coming in. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this again. If you think it's a myth, it's a 1. If you think it's reality, it's a 2. So what I'm hearing is everybody thinks it's reality. And here's your first learning lesson of the day is that it's a false promise. It's a myth. The false promise of content marketing. Because the reality is today the internet is absolutely overwhelming. It overwhelms everyone with content that speaks to some interest of theirs. And just because you provide any of that content, there's no guarantee it'll get you the results that you want. The impact or influence of content just for content's sake has diminished precipitously. I would suggest it almost doesn't exist at all. But I would suggest to such a point that most people consider it even annoying. It's an obstacle to getting what they really want. Now, you'll hear me sometimes, if you've been on webinars before, I sometimes call it litter. The internet is drowning. It's literally drowning in content litter. And it's frustrating the heck out of the people who are looking for an answer. They're looking for solutions. They're looking for information that's going to help them succeed and move forward. And yet, all we're providing them with litter. And that's the harsh reality of it. And we're going to go into why that is, and then we're going to provide you the solution to that and how we need to go further with our content marketing and think differently about it. And that's where this whole concept comes in, is creating content on purpose, not just for content's sakes. So for you and your business, blindly following the idea of just pumping out content and getting it out there and thinking that's marketing, well, I got to tell you, it's a reality check time, because it'll only lead you to more frustration. So why am I saying this? What's this all about? Well, what do you do if you have free content and it even has great value that you're providing, but it doesn't get you any red hot prospects? And in fact, it doesn't get anybody flocking to you at all. What if all it attracts are curiosity seekers, or people looking for free tips or free instructions or free DIY? What happens after you spend time and money and effort creating it all, and they don't come running to you to solve their problems? They don't come running to you to hire you. Do you create more content? Do you create better content? Do you create more valuable content? So my question is, how can doing more of what's not working help with anything? I stole this slide from Rich Sheffrin, or borrowed it, I should say. Since when is more the solution to having too much? And this is just one of those examples. I would even suggest to you that anytime you find yourself doing more of the same and expecting different results, you truly are, as Albert Einstein was attributed to say, working from a level of, or a state of insanity. So it's important to realize that what we see out there is not working. And all we have to do, let me validate this. If you go and you look at all those posts, all that content that you're posting out there, how many likes do you get? How many thumbs up do you get? How many comments do you get? How much engagement is going on? Or is it just this rolling screen? I look at it every day, and all I see is a rolling screen of piece after piece after piece of shared content that has no interaction, no engagement whatsoever. It's literally just littering the internet. So the bottom line, and this is imperative that you understand this, is that free content is not marketing. It's not marketing at all. So today, simply offering free content, even valuable free content, is little more than wishful thinking. And the reality is it won't bring you clients. Now, this might be hard for you to hear. And again, that's why I said in that previous slide, stick with me to the end, because we're going on a journey here. And I'm going to take you through, some dark, harsh realities here. So don't get me wrong. If you publish tons of articles and you've got tons of content out there on the internet, you will get found. You will get some SEO benefit from them. And maybe even people will start to recognize your name. But getting found alone doesn't make a business. What you really attract by simply offering free content is likely not even the person you want to attract. It's up to you and your marketing to make sure your content turns searchers into prospects and prospects into customers. The straightforward bottom line question you need to ask and answer whenever you're creating content is you need to know if your content marketing is effective. And the question you need to ask and answer is this one. So the criteria is simple. If they're not more likely to consider you and engage after consuming a piece of your content, then you're simply wasting your time, your energy, and your money if you're paying to put your content out there. You're taking steps you don't need to. If it's driving your prospect closer to becoming a customer, it's not. It's actually driving them or pushing them further away. And worse, it may even be pushing them straight to a competitor who understands the formula and the information that you're going to learn in the upcoming presentation here that I'm doing. So let me say it again. So there's no mistake here. Content without a deeper purpose than simply educating the reader or providing information will not make anyone more likely to do business or purchase anything from you. It's a harsh reality, but it's true. You see, in this attention deficit world, you need a never-ending, tightly focused marketing strategy that positions you as the expert in an area you are deeply passionate about and competent to fulfill a promise. Now, everything you need to know about creating compelling content is actually in that statement that I've got posted right there. And let's dive into that. Let's go a little deeper into that. Let me just do a quick check-in here. Jamie, you with me? Everybody with me? Give me some ones if you're with me, even if you totally disagree with me and you're angry with me right now.
Yes, and I did want to, someone had posted in the chat. We do have ones, so people are hearing. Question came through in the chat. Is this webinar considered free content? And I said yes, but all content has a purpose, and that's what we're covering here. But I'll let you address that, Mark.
Yes. So let's go deeper, and it's right there in front of you in terms of this statement is that, and the big word here I'm going to point it out is marketing strategy. If you're just pumping content out, free content out for the sake of free content, you're not following a strategy. Do Jamie and I follow a strategy? Yes. If you're part of our program, if you look at the program, even if you signed up for our free program, you'll realize that you're part of it. And you should be totally aware that you're part of an all-encompassing larger strategy. And we don't make any secret of that. That's exactly what we're about, is strategic marketing and making sure that we're getting our message out there. So hopefully that answered your question. Hopefully as we go deeper, you'll see and you'll understand this concept more. So I want you to key in and think, set that word in your mind right now. Strategy, okay? Strategy. So really important. So before you become known as an expert in any field, you need to recognize the first important part of your strategy. It's not about you. An expert can only earn that title from the people who benefit from their expertise. So a couple of key words there. One is earn that title. And that's why it's not about you. And the way to earn that title begins with knowing your audience. In fact, knowing your audience intimately. It's critical. So this is the beginning of our strategy piece and how we start to pull this together. Okay, it's imperative that you invest time to become a student and an expert of your client. So much of the information, so much of the content that we see out there is just people, I call it upchucking or throwing up on the internet all of their opinions and their thoughts and their ideas, and they haven't even validated them in terms of finding out if they're there, if that information is going to serve anybody, or if anybody even wants to hear it, or if they're hearing it in the way that they want to hear it. So you need to understand your audience intimately. In fact, better than they know themselves. Why? Because your prospect is experiencing conflict, and your only purpose is to help them resolve that conflict. Now, conflict is emotional, and it's preventing them from getting the outcomes that they want. It's also intimate. They take it personally. So without that knowledge, without that intimate knowledge of your audience, of your prospect, you're simply just swimming on the surface. So until you go deep, you'll never win over your prospect as the resource they need now. Let's go a bit deeper into this, okay? So if we think about this idea that resolving your client's conflict is the key purpose, one of the key purposes behind your business, then now we begin to start to develop a strategy. So let's think about this for a minute. Let's talk about the idea of strategy. So pretty much everybody I've consulted with, and I know Jamie would echo this sentiment, is missing this first vital ingredient for business success, and that's a strategy. See, this is a critical problem that you need to acknowledge and address, because if you're not being strategic, you're just making it up as you go along. And that's the kiss of death in any business. And this relates directly to content. We see this over and over again. It's people just throwing content out without a sound, comprehensive strategy. So you need to be strategic in everything you do. It's the key to your success. Now, what I mean by being strategic in your marketing, and I don't actually have this noted in a slide, but it's really easy for you to understand this. To market strategically, you clearly need to understand three things: where you're starting, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Where you're starting, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. And as with all things in business, if you don't have a crystal clear path planned out for where you want your prospects to go, how are you ever going to get them where you want them to be? You have to know where you're going before you can determine how to get there. If you don't have that clear goal in mind, you'll be wandering aimlessly. Again, you'll just be throwing content out. And that's where you get into this idea where you're wasting your time and your effort and money on advertising and marketing and getting that information out there, maybe even outsourcing. Every piece of marketing content will be a struggle and a battle if you don't have a strategy. So the how you get there part is where your marketing strategy comes in. And an integral part of that is content, but it's just one part of your marketing. And it's just one part of your strategy. Am I making sense here? Quick check-in.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good.
Yes.
So we need to look at this from a perspective of strategy and how can we create content that's on purpose. So there's four main categories that go into crafting, a proper and effective piece of content. And I'm going to do this, and then I want to run through this, and then I want to bring up a couple other points as well. So these are four pieces that you really, they're bases of your content, the basis of that you really need to cover. And if you miss one of these, then your prospects will be gone. You won't be able to keep them in process with you. So the first thing you need to realize is your content needs to address a conflict. This comes back to understanding your audience. You've got to know what they're struggling with. So you don't want to just be throwing content out there because you like it or because you think it's important. You've got to validate it. You've got to check in. You've got to find out what is it addressing in terms of the conflict that your prospect is struggling with. Two, you've got to have a claim. You've got to have a solution to that, because one without the other is just dead. It's empty and it doesn't go anywhere. And you'll see that I'm following this process as I go through the webinar. Three, convince. How can you persuade them that your solution actually works? And four, commitment. How will you make it easy for them to commit to your solution? How can you make it easy for them to go to the next step? This is critical. Now, right now, I'm sure that people are probably glazing over. Maybe even there's some people leaving the webinar. Because why? Because they just wanted that quick, easy, simple solution. And they want to just keep churning out content and hoping that they'll get different results. But I regret to inform you that if you're in business, then you need to pull on those big boy underwear, those big girl panties, because being in business takes work. And if you think that it's just a matter of throwing some content out there and you're going to get rich, well, you've bought into those get rich peddlers that are all over the internet that are telling you you're going to make a fortune by not actually doing the work. You have to do the work. And the work is mental work. It's this kind of work. It's thinking work. It's relationship building work. So I don't want to beat up on you too hard, but those of you who are looking for the quick fix or the magic potion or pill, it ain't there. You need to realize that work needs to be done, and I'm giving you a framework to do that work by, which is actually going to get you results faster, and it's going to get you greater results as well. So let's pick these apart. But before I do, again, quick check-in. Jamie, anything coming up?
Yeah, I took good notes on that. I like that. I love the C's, the 4 C's. I mean, I'm thinking to myself about all the websites that I look at on a daily basis, and kind of
Yes.
speaking and consulting with people, and how many people have just a subscribe button on their website. Click here to subscribe so I can throw more content at you.
Yes.
Um, but there's no real purpose in why would I subscribe? What am I going to get for that? So and a lot of people are so bold as to say, subscribe to my newsletter where I'll send you, weekly tips and, and that kind of a thing. That's all fine and great to send all of that stuff. But is it inspirational enough to have people recognize, your potential clients recognize how you can help them? So just think about that. If you have a
Yeah.
subscribe button on your website, go a little bit deeper with that. That's what's coming
Yeah.
up for me, Mark.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we get to C4, the fourth point. But I go even broader than that, or back up a little bit from that, is how many times do we go to websites and over again, I would say 80, 90% of the websites that I critique or I look at have no purpose to them whatsoever. They're just rambling encyclopedias of information that's all about the business owner, all about the
Yeah.
business, as
Yeah.
opposed to being others focused or client focused or prospect focused.
Yes.
So let's go into these each one step at a time. So C1, content on purpose. Let's talk about the idea of conflict. So something that your prospect is struggling with. At its most basic, simplistic level, a conflict, it's something that your prospect is, they're stuck. They're struggling. They're struggling with this. It could be a goal that's out of your prospect's reach, or it could be a problem, a roadblock, an obstacle that they've come up against, a problem that they can't solve. In broad terms, it's where your prospect realizes he or she needs something to make their situation, their business, their life better or different. So one of the things we need to do when we deal with this is we need to really put a spotlight on it. In some cases, we need to make the conflict bigger than it is in a simplest sense. And let me give you an example of this, because that sounds kind of odd maybe, or it sounds manipulative, but it's really not. Think about it this way. I'm going to give you an example. You're in the weight loss business. So let's say you've got a product that will let your prospects, help your prospects lose 10 pounds in 1 month. What a great product, okay? So you begin with a marketing message that addresses this conflict, and it starts like this. It's a simple question. Do you need to lose 10 pounds in the next 30 days? So maybe that's your message. Now you got to ask yourself, what kind of impact does that message have? Well, I don't believe it has much. It does target, it does call out a need, it does call out somebody that has an issue that they want to deal with, but it's kind of lame. Maybe your prospect knows that they have to lose weight, but the conflict you presented doesn't really have any bite to it. It doesn't have teeth. There isn't really anything in that. And because it doesn't, you're not likely to probably get much of a response from that simple question. But if I reposition that conflict this way, let me read this to you as a line. Is the excess weight you're carrying around with you day to day, day after day, turning your heart into a ticking time bomb? Is it putting you at risk of diabetes or stroke? How much healthier life could you be living if you just lost 10 of those excess pounds? So can you see how suddenly those 10 excess pounds go from being just a simple nuisance to becoming a matter of life and death? So the impact of the message has just taken on a whole new level of importance. And this is what I mean by making it big. And you've got to really delve into the conflict in terms of, what is it preventing that person from doing? What is it stopping them from doing in terms of having a better life, in terms of having a better business, and in terms of having what they really want? So that's an example of how you might look at that. And now I want to throw one more thing at you. We're going to transition into a quick exercise here. And the idea that if there's no conflict, it means there's no interest. So you can pump content out there all you want. And if there's no conflict in your content, if there isn't this story being told about a conflict, then what's it all about really? What are you really trying to achieve? What's the purpose of your content? Does it make you feel good to entertain and provide information to people? That's great. But if you're in business, I would hope that and think that your purpose is a little different than that. So let's move forward here. And now it's your turn. I want you to pull out your notepad now. And I want you to jot down a few things. What is that something that your prospect is struggling with? Okay, so some of you may be very generic. Some of you may be at a place in your business where you haven't even taken the time to identify an audience, and you say, well, I can help everybody with everything. And we all know that if that's where you're at, you're going to help nobody with anything. So you need to, maybe at this moment in time, just pick something, pick somebody that you want to serve and get them in your mind and think about it. Take a few minutes now and start to make a list of all the possible conflicts in the minds of the people you want to work with, in your prospects' lives, that your product or service, what you're offering, is going to solve. So start with obvious ones and see how specific you can get, and just jot down a few because we don't have time today to go in depth, but I want you to continue this exercise when we're done. I'm going to throw a few questions at you that maybe will help stimulate your thinking, and then I'm going to shut up for a minute. So what goals are they continually struggling to achieve? What problems do they deal with consistently that they're unable to resolve? What do they lie awake in bed late at night worrying about? What do they hate doing the most? What do they hate doing the most in their day-to-day lives and their day-to-day work? What tasks do they struggle with the most? What do they put off or procrastinate, avoid? What holds them back from achieving their goals? Who or what might be the biggest barrier to their success? How do they feel with their struggle every day of their lives? And you may have some other questions in mind. So think about your audience and think about what is that something that your prospects are struggling with, that person you want to serve. And I'm just going to shut up here for a minute and let you go ahead and take some notes.
And if anybody wants to share any aspect of what Mark's talking about, or you're struggling with something, ask a question. Ask a question in the chat.
So just give a few more seconds here. See if you can get at least 3 things written down. And reword that question however it works for you. You might want to call them your client. You might want to call them directly by the audience name, whoever it is you're focusing on, whoever you want to serve. What are they struggling with? Okay, we're going to move on to the next C. So the next C, if you recall, is claim. So this is your claim of a solution. So once you've established a powerful conflict in your prospect's mind, one you believe will spark action, one that will get your prospect to say, I've got to do something about this. I can't continue like this. You'll need to show them some kind of a solution for it. See, presenting your prospect with just a painful conflict, it has to be balanced with a solution. And if it isn't, then you're just stirring up anxiety and you're just going to tick people off, and that's not helpful. So you have to give them hope. You have to give them a path and let them know that there's a path forward to getting out of wherever it is that they're stuck. So what does your solution need to contain? Well, a superior solution in your prospect's eyes, for sure. It has to be superior. It can't be just mundane or blah, because they could go elsewhere, right? The purpose here is to get people to move forward with you. Your solution needs to be a statement that promises something that can be considered irresistible. It's compelling. It has a unique benefit to it that's really meaningful to your prospect, one that will solve their conflict, but also leave them better off than they were before. And preferably, it'll do it fast and easy, or as fast and easy as possible. Your solution needs to be based on a benefit that your prospect gets from your service delivery or your product delivery, whatever it is that you're marketing, that you're serving people with. So to be meaningful, it needs to be superior based on their specific needs and wants, but it also obviously has to match what you're offering. So presenting your solution is where you initially establish the value of that. It's where you initially establish the value of your product or your service. So the bigger, more dramatic you can make the conflict for your prospect, the bigger and more beneficial you can offer a solution. So the two kind of are in balance. And I would suggest big is good. Go big or go home. In fact, the bigger the conflict, the bigger the solution needs or appears to be. So therefore, the greater the value it has. So little conflicts mean simple solutions, mean low value. Bigger conflicts mean bigger solution, mean bigger value. Does that make sense? Give me a 1 if I'm making sense. And now let's take this exercise one step further. So now what you can do is take those conflicts. If you jotted down a few of them, that's great. Now think about those. What powerful or believable claims does your product or service provide that I think I've written this wrong. That solves the conflicts you identified. And the word "that" is wrong there in my slide. I should be the conflicts you identify. So take a few moments to go through that list. Go through the list of conflicts that you identified in the previous exercise. Start with the most powerful, the one that jumps out at you the most. And come up with a powerful, believable claim your product or service provides that solves that conflict. If you think of it this way, one that your prospect will have no choice but to consider, that they have to say yes. You might think about that weight loss example that I shared before. What can you do that brings it to life? So list out those meaningful claims of the solution you can make to your prospects. And again, let's just take a few minutes and I'll shut up for a minute or two here and we'll let you make some notes on that. And if you can hear that in the background, that's my dog coughing up a fur ball. Can you hear that, Jamie?
I can hear it, and I'm just keeping my mic off because I don't want to have a coughing a fur ball attack either.
Okay, hopefully you've been able to come up with some solutions that you're providing. So I realize that this is not a quick and easy fix. This is work. This is thinking work. And this is what you need to do when you go to, create that content. Here's another way that you might think about it. You might go back, whether you liked it or not, when you were in school and you had to create an essay or a piece of content for a teacher. You didn't just ramble on a piece of paper and think that you were going to get an A. You had to think about the structure of that content piece. You had to put it together. If it was an essay, you probably had to quote some sources, right? So that's some of the validation. You had to maybe have a bibliography with there where you provided those sources, and you needed to present your own argument around that. So think of it that way. This is the kind of work that I'm suggesting you need to put into your content. Okay, so moving on now. Did my slides go? They jumped. I didn't have this properly scrolled, but that's okay. So we're going to go on to content point number 3 here, which is convince. So you need to persuade them your solution works. So what does that mean? It means providing, a story. It means providing some sort of evidence, if you will. And what I mean by that is, many times evidence doesn't necessarily come out of a scientific journal. It's not something that somebody has gone out and actually done a split test or a blind marketing test on or product test on. But you get the idea. You need to make this real for your client, for your prospect, for the person that you're writing to. So you've established this big conflict in their mind, okay? And now you've shown them this wonderful solution. And the bigger your claim, remember, the more skeptical your prospect is going to be. They're going to go, whoa, what's going on here? So the more believable the proof of your claim or the solution you provide needs to be. So you have to persuade them. And these are the criteria, if you will, that your prospect will use, to prove to themselves that the solution you're offering is going to be something that's worth considering, that it will be the best for them, that it will be effective for them, that it will be a valuable solution to them. So it's important that we don't skip this step, that we put some thought into that. Now remember, your prospect is bombarded with sales and marketing messages thousands of times every day. And they've got this little gatekeeper in their brain that's looking for any reason to dismiss your message. So if you can ratchet up that discomfort in the conflict you present and enough value with the claim of the solution you offer to get their attention, then it becomes absolutely essential that you back it all up by convincing them that what you're saying is the absolute truth. So these 3 steps in your message will work together, supporting and advancing each other. So the first step, first and foremost, you have to convince them that the conflict that you surface for them is really important and needs to be solved. So coming back to that 10 pounds example, if I go, so what? Lots of people are carrying around more than 10 pounds or 10 pounds and it doesn't affect them. If I don't have a sense that it's going to personally affect me, that's why I bring up the stroke or the heart attack or the quality of life. If I don't do that, then I haven't convinced them that the conflict is real and needs to be addressed. So remember, a conflict that isn't causing some significant pain or frustration, something that is hitting them physically or emotionally in their lives, won't get considered. It won't even get them to consider taking action to solve it. So it's important that you convince them that the conflict that you've surfaced is important. Second, you have to convince them that you will do the job and deliver on what you're claiming, that they can trust you. Effectively, that your solution will make their conflict go away. Not only that, but that it's the best way for them to eliminate this conflict or to overcome whatever it is. It's the best for them based on who they are, the resources they have, maybe what they've tried in the past or what else is out there. And the third point is lastly, you need to convince them of your own credibility, that you are the go-to person for this solution, that your experience, your know-how, whatever your story is the only thing that will solve whatever is hurting them. So you have to convince them that you are the only person. You are the only person that they want to talk to, the only person who can make that claim that you just made and make it a reality in their life. And again, if you've got to think outside the box here. Many people kind of go, oh, well, I don't have accolades in newspapers or periodicals about me, or I don't have documentaries made about me. Of course you don't. You wouldn't be at the stage in your business if you did. But you do have a story, and you do have personal experiences that you can bring to bear that tell the story that you have solved these problems, that you have a legitimate solution to the problems that they're facing. I messed up my slides when I went back to try that.
Tony says she went out and back in now. Now I can see the slides. Great.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Excellent. Okay.
Thanks.
So we did that exercise. Now we're on 3, and we talked about this. So we talked about these parts of convincing people before we got sidetracked. So yeah, you want to convince them that the conflict is real and that it's urgent, that it needs to be addressed. You need to convince them that, your solution works, that you'll deliver, that will happen. And lastly, you need to convince them of your credibility. So you need to tell a little about yourself. You need to give your story and why that's important. And depending on how far you are in your business, you might have testimonials, you might have comments, you might have other things that you can use in your arsenal to validate your credibility. So let's go to number 3 now. Sorry, am I doing it again? We just went through this, didn't we? Okay, let's go on to number 4. Okay, so number 4 is, and you all know what it is because you saw it before, is commitment. So commitment is, we want to make it easy for them to commit to your solution. So you've raised a conflict in your prospect's mind that has to be solved, and it has to be solved sooner rather than later. And you've given them this spectacular claim that says, hey, there is a solution to your problem, and you can get rid of this once and for all, or you can climb that mountain that you've always wanted to climb. And you've blown them away with credible evidence, convincing them that you are the one and that your solution is the only thing that will eliminate their problem or help them achieve that goal. So this is the point where you essentially start to sum up your entire offer. It's another big opportunity to ratchet up the perceived value of your product or service. So you make sure you tell them everything they get by taking action. Make sure you attract and attach some kind of value to everything that you're offering. Tell them in the most vivid detail you possibly can how their lives will be different after they take action. So when you're establishing commitment, you've not only got to get them to decide to take action, but you've also got to make sure that they follow through and actually do take action. So, what does action mean to you? And again, this comes back to your purpose. It's going to be different for everybody depending on what your strategy is and what your content piece is all about. So what's the action do you want them to take? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to make an appointment? Do you want them to sign up for a webinar? Do you want them to buy? Maybe you've got something that you're literally offering, right there in your content. So even after summarizing your offer, there's still some very important things that you want to consider here. And that is, you want to make it easy. You don't want to just leave them hanging. And I think this kind of comes back to your point, Jamie. And you don't want to make them, the other part I'll talk about in a minute, but make it easy for them in terms of, okay, you've gotten me all hot, you've gotten me all excited, and now all of a sudden you've got a button that says subscribe. Well, that's not what you were talking about in the content. You weren't talking about subscribing. You were talking about giving me this template, or you were talking about giving me this cheat sheet, or you're talking about giving me this info graphic or something. So make it really easy. Click here to download the infographic. Click here to make an appointment. Make sure that what you're doing easily and quickly corresponds to the content in the piece that you're doing, so that you're leading them right to that solution. The other thing is, you don't want to make them wait. So you want to satisfy, we live in a world where people are all about instant gratification, and the more immediate you can give them something in terms of that's working for them or showing them that there's progress, the better. And here's one little trick that it's not a trick. It's a great way to get somebody on the move right away. And that's, if you have them click on something, you could take them to a quick little survey or an assessment or something where they're already taking action and moving forward. So it's a great step, a great in-between step. So and again, we model this. So for example, if somebody said, yeah, I want it now, they would click on that and they would immediately go to an assessment that relates to the content, that maybe asks them a number of questions that relate to that content. So do you have this? Are you missing this? Is this something you would like? So on and so forth. So they could go through a very simple, easy checkbox system that makes them realize they're getting closer to their goal and they're actually taking action. It gets them clicking, it gets them moving, it gets them engaging in what you're doing. And then from there, they would go to maybe set up the appointment with you, would be an example of that. So that's an example of not making them wait. The opposite of that would be, hey, go here and fill out my contact form and I'll get back to you when I can. So that would be a making them wait example. And we don't want to do that. We want to try and make things move as quickly as possible and as simple a matter for them as possible. Jamie, does that make sense? Anything you want to add to that?
I was just going to say that, and you said everything that I was going to say, but basically we call it like a call to action. What is that next thing what is the next step that they should take towards you? And a contact me form on a website is not an effective strategy to have them do that, because as Mark just said, it's kind of like, fill out my little contact me form, tell me a little bit about you, I guess, or they don't really know. It's just, you leave a little note there for comments. And so they're like, I don't know what I want to say. All right. So then they're left with, I don't know if he's received my email. I don't know when I'll hear from him or her. And I'm not feeling served. And from here, I'll go have a sandwich and start scrolling for other people who can help me.
Exactly.
So you have something that's nice and easy, and just, you take them by the hand, and with a call to action to an assessment is what we would certainly recommend. Yeah.
And the idea too here is make sure that your content flows and your messaging is congruent. So here's an example. And again, Jamie and I see this over and over again. Somebody produces a beautiful marketing piece or a beautiful piece of content, and the person goes and clicks through to get whatever it is. Maybe it's even an item that they're purchasing. And where do they take them to? A generic website that's been the same and static and hasn't changed for 5 years. So you just lost them. You just lost all of your credibility. So if your content piece is saying, hey, go here to finish reading the article, or go here for my checklist, or go here to learn more, when they click, that better lead them to the checklist or the content or the learn more. It better flow beautifully in terms of or you've just wasted all of your effort. So again, this comes back to thinking strategically. There has to be, where am I starting? How am I going to get them there? Where are they going to end? You have to have this planned out and mapped out so that it all works together. And this is a thing where many people just throw one piece out there and then they wonder why they don't get any results. They throw a piece of content out there and it doesn't even have their contact information. It doesn't have any call to action, doesn't tell the person what to do, and they expect them to actually go to the work of digging up, surfing for them on Google. It's craziness when you think about it. So think about it strategically. You're in business to take people through a process and to have them connect with you at whatever level it is that you're doing, whether you're selling a simple widget or whether you're wanting to have a conversation with them about a high ticket coaching program. All of these have a process to them where you need to have a flow and a consistent flow through.
And if I can just piggyback on what you were just saying to evergreen content, meaning that if somebody is going to download your free report, make sure it's not dated 2005. Make sure there's nothing on there that's like, okay, I've had this thing forever and I'm just putting it out there. And so even your blog content, like it shouldn't have a date to it. It should always be relevant. They shouldn't land on a blog article that, you posted on Facebook that was from 2005, to use that. Because I see that a lot. And I'm like, why would I read it? If it's that old, why would I bother reading it? So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, anything that's going to pull your reader off the path that you want them on is something you need to be watching out for. And again, it takes some thinking, it takes some mapping out. Okay, so we're going to do this final exercise, and then I'm gonna wrap up with a summary and also some of the obvious questions that people have asked me before, so that maybe I can head off some of that, and also Q&A, so that we've got time to do that. So we're going to do this now. So now it's your turn. How you can get again, my spelling or my typing's off here, how you can get your prospect to commit. That doesn't read very well, does it? Take another few minutes and think about how you can get your prospect to commit. So make them see themselves experiencing all the benefits your product will deliver, and do that in as much detail as possible. Let them know how great their life will be once they've consumed what it is that you're offering. So make sure it's simple, but also irresistible. Make sure they know that they can get started as soon as possible so that they don't have to wait for you to get back to them. So in other words, don't give them an opportunity where, at any place in time where they have to think that the decision is too much work, or that maybe, you're not the right one, or that it's the wrong solution. So take a minute now. You started to build out your model. You're now at C4. What can you do? It could be something as simple as, wow, I need to put a survey on my page, or an assessment, or I need to create a downloadable piece of content that they'll take with them, so that then I can continue a conversation and put them into a funnel. Maybe I need to put a little Q&A, a little survey or questionnaire, an assessment that then leads them to my calendar. Maybe I need to set up a calendar so that it makes it very easy for people to get in touch with me. Jot down your thoughts on that and what you can do to make it easy and smooth for your prospect to commit to the next step with you. Take a minute to do that.
And I just want to pop in here with one little comment in addition to that, but please keep working. But it is to what we were just saying, or what I was saying just a moment ago. Same thing when somebody downloads your content and it's something they're going to take away. It takes them off of your website. It's something that they're going to download and maybe read later before bed, or on their drive home, or on their commute home, on the train. Hopefully they're not driving and reading, but that you lead them back to where you want them to go. So make sure that content, if it is something that's taken them off your site, that reminds them where they got it from. You'd be amazed at how much, like Mark and I have said, we critique a lot of things and we see that as a common problem. So I just want to make sure that you keep that in mind as well. If you are going to create something, make sure that it leads them back. Always a call to action, always. Okay.
So those are a few key things that you might want to jot down. Make sure there's a call to action in my content. Make sure my closing paragraph tells people to do something and leads them to a specific place. What else can you get them to do to commit? I just mentioned a few. Have a button on there that they can click through to, have an assessment on there. Make sure you have a calendar on there where people can book an appointment with you. Those are a number of things that you could even consider jotting down if you don't have them now. So let's just I'm going to do a quick little sum up here, and then I want to make a couple comments, and then we're going to open up again to Q&A. So just a quick recap of the important points to remember. So these are the 4 C's of your content message. So just so we're clear, let's go through these quickly. Conflict. So it's your prospect's conflict. It's not your conflict. So you need to be intimately aware of your audience and your conflict and who you're talking to, so you can understand where they're conflicted, where they're having a struggle, where there's a goal that's out of reach. 2 is a claim. What's your claim? What's your claim of a solution to that conflict? What's the big benefit that you bring to the table? And remember, the bigger, the more meaningful, the better, the more value it's going to present to somebody. Then you need to convince them. But of course, if the bigger the claim, the more credible convincing you're going to need to do. So, maybe you've seen some of these guys like Sam Evans or Frank Kern, or some of these guys that show these multi-million-dollar checks. They're making big claims, but they're also showing, right? They're convincing, they're showing evidence. Hey, look at this $3 million check that I cashed last week. So, you can see this all the time. So you need to prove through various means that your product will solve their conflict. And you need to prove that you're the go-to expert that will get the job done for them. And lastly, number 4 is commitment. Here's where you make it easy for them. You make it irresistible. You make it what I call a no-brainer for them to go to the next step. And whatever that looks like for you, however you want to map that out, is important. Okay, that's key. Now, a couple things I want to throw out there. One is a little bit of a homework assignment. I hope you've enjoyed this. Is when you look at content now, look for these pieces, because you'll find them. It amazes me. Just before we came on the webinar, about an hour ago, I was on LinkedIn and I saw a lovely little piece that I thought, wow, this guy did it beautifully. So you may be thinking, oh, wow, I've got to write these huge, long pieces or whatever. This was an example. A fellow shared, he wrote, I wish I could bring it up here. As a matter of fact, let me, if we don't mind, we're running a little low on time. Otherwise, I'd bring it up. But what it was he'd shared an article about stress. And his business, he's in the business of stress management. He's a stress coach. He shared an article that validated everything, because the article actually had the scientific proof and evidence. So he curated this content about millennials, men and women, and how much stress they were experiencing, and how little time they took to find stress solutions. So he introduced this with his own paragraph. Then he shared the article. And then below the article, he had his call to action was, hey, if you're challenged with this, if you fit this category and this meets you, then click here to get my stress relief management tip of the day. So his purpose was obviously to build people. It was a funnel to build people into his list where he'd be sending daily stress relief messages to. Now, of course, that would be part of a larger strategy, right? So from those people, so his initial purpose in this would be list building. From his list now, that would be part of a bigger strategy where he would probably have them in a funnel that would lead them through a process of perhaps buying his book. I don't know. I didn't go through his funnel. Or perhaps it would be signing up for a coaching session or a free consult or what have you. So that's where strategy comes in. And so these pieces, when we talk about content marketing, can be simple. They can be small. They don't have to be these grand pieces that you create. You can do them with curated content. So what my homework assignment for you is to look for that now. Literally critique content. When you read content, go, oh, that was entertaining. That's informative. I'll just make note of that to use myself. Or are you seeing content that goes, wow, I really have this strong desire to click that button to read more, to learn more, to buy? Observe these pieces and where you see this happening, where they're introducing struggle, where they're introducing conflict, where they're introducing a solution, where they're providing some validation and proof that it works, and then how they're making it easy for you to move through the process. So look for those examples, because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I also want you to think about this in terms of context of a larger strategy, like I just shared, curating content. Maybe you're posting something that's funny, for example, that is part of a larger campaign. So maybe your content is broken up into, say, 4 pieces of content that are going to lead to an overarching purpose. So there are no, these rules are loose, but think about them strategically and you'll see how they all come together. Map it out. What's the purpose of my content? How am I going to get them from A to B? And if you're a coach, well, I don't know why you'd be on this webinar if you're not in business. If you're in business, your ultimate goal, your ultimate purpose is to get a client. So your strategy needs to follow that always. Otherwise, what are you doing? Maybe you make a fortune. Maybe you're doing it for charitable work, and that's just fine. If you just want to throw free content out there for charity because you're making so much money and you've got so many clients, great. But if you're not maxed out and you still need more clients and you still need to make more income, or you need to grow your income, or you need to stabilize your income, then you can't afford to be wasting time just throwing content out there. You need to think of it strategically. So I'm going to wrap up by saying the question is whether you want to DIY this. And this is what Jamie and I do. And we're going to give you an offer here in a minute, as I suggested. That's not going to be a financial offer. It's not going to be something you have to pay for. But full disclosure here, this is how we help people, is by helping them develop a sound strategy to build a business that's going to work by taking in all of those pieces of creating a successful business. So I'll leave you with this as a thought, and then we're going to transition back to Jamie, where she's going to give you some information. But here it is. Your business is perfectly designed to achieve the results you're currently getting. And if you're not getting what you want, stop pretending a magic solution is out there somewhere. The answer is obvious. You simply haven't designed your business to get you what you want. And I'd add one more thing in there. It's really hard to do that alone. In fact, I believe it's impossible. If you don't have assistance, if you don't have an extra set of eyes that can give you perspective, then I don't believe you're ever going to get to where you really, really, really want to be. And on that note, Jamie, I will close my slides.
Sure. Okay. So I've put up into I think you should be seeing it in the chat. And actually, I'll go ahead and turn on my camera. And Mark, if you want to do the same.
How do I turn off my
we're offering to you, again, no charge for this, is a template for creating content with a purpose that breaks through the noise and motivates your ideal client to engage. Plus, we are offering a free, no hassle, no selling. We're not hardcore salespeople. 1 hour consult and review of your content. I'll let you know. Sorry, I'm going to move my seat over. So there I am. So if you are interested in that, just click on the red button. Can you see it, Mark?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Just click on the red button that says I'm interested, and we'll have you fill out a very brief assessment, and then we'll reach out to you, and we will provide you what we're promising. Right there.
And I would encourage you to, take a risk here, even if you're thinking, oh, I'd be embarrassed, or I don't know, my content's all over the place. There's nothing like a live critique where we go through it. Yeah. I am 100%, I can make a 100% promise here, is that you will get tremendous value from this. And this is our gift to you. We want to take some of your content, sit down. We're going to give you up to an hour of our time where we're going to go through it. We're going to pick it apart. And we're going to tell you how, and then we're going to rebuild it. We're going to tell you how to rebuild it in a purposeful way. So why do we do this? What are we doing this for? What's our purpose? Okay, full disclosure again. Our strategy, our purpose is, we call it a paying it forward process. So that's our strategy, is if we give you valuable service and we don't charge for it, we do that up front like this, then we're going to find synergy together. Now, we're not going to find it with everybody, right? Some people are going to go, thanks, you know what? I don't really, I'm not that committed, or I don't like you, or I don't want to work with you. And that's fine. Then we part, company. Or you go, wow, I can really see value in this. I can really see that there's going to be ROI and an investment of working with you and helping you take my business to the next level. And that's what it's all about. And we, on the other side, do the same thing. We're going to look at you and say, is there potential here? Do we believe we can help you take your business to the next level so that you get exponential returns on your investment? If you can, then we get very excited and we really want to work with you. If we can't, we're going to tell you that too. And we may even send you home with some homework. We may even send you home saying, hey, there are some things you need to do first, and don't waste any more money doing this, or this. Do this first, and then let's talk again. So you see what you get. And this is who you get. This is what you get. And we're going to give it to you straight, and know that we're passionate about helping you take your business to the next level, whatever that level looks like for you. And we'd love the opportunity to give you some free advice and to work with you and to see if there's synergy there and an opportunity for us to work together.
Does anybody have any questions or comments before we wrap up? I want to make sure we get your questions answered if you do have some. I'll wait a couple of minutes here and I'll just wait and see. And if not in the next like 30 seconds or so, I guess we'll wrap it up. And we're hoping to see, people have filled out that form, express some interest. Roberto says, great stuff, Mark.
Thank you, Roberto. I appreciate you coming and sticking through to the end. Hopefully have a chance to chat one day.
And Scott had to go sign off early, but he also said, thank you. This was very valuable. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
That's
thank
great.
you for the feedback. That's awesome. It was a good presentation, Mark. Very, very concise. And
thank you. And we're a little past the hour, but obviously more Q&A can always be answered by clicking I'm interested. We'd love to answer your questions. And once again, we promise you're going to come away with some really valuable insights, and we're not gonna put you in an arm or a headlock or twist your arm. But if we see potential and you see potential, we'd love to work with you. And that first step though is getting to know you, right?
And if you want to learn more, you can go to upscaleyourbusiness.com or releasedynamics.com. We have very similar websites, but you can find out more about us there.
Yes.
All right.
Releasedynamics.net. Sorry.
Oh, .net. Right.
Yeah.
Releasedynamics.net.
.com is my old site. So if you do end up there, that was my agency, which I've now spun off, and I'm focusing for the last 2 years exclusively on the .net stuff. So yeah, a little disclosure there as well. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you all for being here. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.